What is up, everyone, and welcome to Generation 9. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have finally arrived, and with it comes the full Pokedex of the Paldea Region. This video will contain spoilers for every single new Pokemon found in the Scarlet and Violet games, so if you'd rather experience the wonder of these new Pokemon for yourself first, this is your last chance to click away. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video, and smash that like button if you're excited for my playthrough of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet starting later today. And we're going to begin with Sprigatito, the Grass-type starter, who evolves into Floragato, the Grass-cat Pokemon that is going to be a pure Grass-type until it hits its final form, Meowscarada, at which point it becomes a Grass and Dark-type Magician Pokemon. Then we've got Fuecoco, the Fire-type starter, who evolves into Crocalor with the little egg on its head, also pure Fire-type, until its final form, Scarlet, where it becomes a Fire and Ghost-type Cloud of Doom. Or Singer, technically. It's called the Singer Pokemon, but I still see a cloud. Finally, we have Quaxly, the water starter for this region, who is going to evolve into Quaxwell, remaining a water type until its final form, Quaquaval, where it becomes a water and fighting dancing duck. But because this is the starter that we've gotten the less images of, I have a full Pokedex description here where you can get a much better look at Quaquaval's design and confirmation of its typing. I gotta say, it looks a lot better than it did in that tiny sprite where I was a little bit disappointed, but now seeing it, Quaquaval is definitely growing on me. We're gonna keep moving right along with Lechonk, the early normal type for this game, who someone managed to find a shiny of somehow. Like, the game's not even out and people are already finding shiny Pokemon, and Lechonk's shiny does not disappoint, being a cute little pink Oinky. But more importantly, we've got Lechonk's evolution Oinkologne, which is actually going to look different depending on what gender you evolve. So on the left there is actually the male Oinkologne, and in the middle, the brown Miss Piggy is actually going to be the female. Nothing too crazy like how Lechonk is reacting. And I don't know if this is the same Lechonk from earlier, but someone found a shiny of its evolution, which is also pink and absolutely gorgeous, if I do say so myself. Now, our first early bug Pokemon in these games is going to be Tarantula, the String Ball pure bug-type Pokemon. Cute little spider carrying a ball of yarn. And its shiny form is red, which is really, really cool. I still don't know how people are finding all these shinies, but I think this might be the last one. So it will evolve into Spidops, still a pure bug type known as the Trap Pokemon. Gotta say, I did not expect this turn in its design. Like, I guess I expected it to carry an even bigger ball of yarn, but the little spider's not alone, as we've got another early pure bug type, this time the Grasshopper Pokemon known as Nimble, and it truly lives up to its name as it can jump over 30 feet with the strength of its legs, apparently. Which is kind of weird considering its evolution Low Kicks seems to have skipped leg day. I don't really know what happened there, but instead of strong legs, I guess it's got what I thought were chainsaw arms, but turns out those are actually a second pair of legs that can snap out and allow it to jump insanely high. And I believe there's a few more bugs, but we'll save them for later because now we've got Smoliv, the grass and normal type olive Pokemon, who's going to be evolving into Dolliv. Very, very appropriate name, though maybe not what some people would have expected as an evolution, but its final form, Arboliva, I think looks amazing. I am actually pleasantly surprised by this because I thought it was just going to be another generic plant waifu, but instead we get a very tranquil looking tree with long branching arms that grow olives that actually look kind of tasty. And speaking of eating Pokemon, next we've got Fido, the fairy type dog, who's going to be evolving into Das Bun, and this is probably the cutest dog Pokemon in the whole game. It's a freaking cinnamon bun, dude. Who doesn't love cinnamon buns? But of course, we've got plenty more dogs in Paldea, next up being Greavard, the ghost dog with the little candle on its head, and when it evolves, that candle becomes a Tombstone, or Houndstone to be more specific, who seems like he might have dropped a couple pounds. He's looking a little bony there. And like the rumor said, we have one more dog this time, the dark type Mastiff, who doesn't look exactly like what I expected, but I kind of like it. I know that its name is supposed to be dog breed plus mischief, but I don't really know dog breeds that well, so maybe one of you guys can let me know in the comments, based off of its evolution, what kind of dog this dark type is, and if you'll be using one on your team. Next, we've got our Pikachu clone for this generation, Pawmi, who's a little bit different to all the previous Pikachu clones, and that is because it actually evolves into Pawmo. 10 out of 10 name right there, I love it. But it is going to be the first ever electric and fighting type Pokemon, which I am very, very surprised didn't exist until now, but I hope that Pawmo is able to live up to this honor. Or I guess that honor should go to its final stage evolution known as Pawmot. Another amazing name. Apparently Pawmi has 3 stages. I don't know why they look so similar to each other. Maybe it'll be explained when we get the Pokedex entries. Now our first regional variant in Paldea is going to be Wooper, who of course becomes a poison and ground type Mudboy, and its evolution is actually a completely new Pokemon known as Clodsire. Oh my goodness, this thing is amazing. I love the design, but its name is kind of giving me regional fake vibes, kind of like Wiglet was close to the name Wiglet. This one is Clodsire instead of Quagsire. I still think the whole thing with Wiglet is kind of weird compared to just making it a regional form, but Clodsire is a new Pokemon, I suppose, a different evolution of Wooper, and I love it. Now the mouse couple that was leaked all that time ago finally makes its appearance in game and is going to be known as Tandemouse, and that's right, this is actually a single Pokemon that's a couple of mice together functioning as one. If you don't believe me, here's the Pokedex entry for the couple Pokemon who are going to be a normal type. And if you thought that was crazy enough, just wait till you see their evolution. The Mousehold is coming! It's a little family of mice, 4 of them to be exact, although I think there was rumors that there might be a variant that's only 3, like they have a single child, but either way, it's going to be a normal type family. Next, we have the pre-evolution for the version exclusives Armarouge and Cerulege, and it's going to be known as Charcadet. Super cute name. Also, the design is great, and it's going to be a pure fire type, which, like I mentioned, can evolve into Armarouge, the fire and psychic type in Pokemon Scarlet, or Cerulege, the fire and ghost type in Pokemon Violet. Another Pokemon that first leaked in that little mini-map image is Squawkabilly, who's going to be a normal and flying type known as the Parrot Pokemon. And as you can see underneath its typing, it specifies this is the white plumage. That is because Squawkabilly has many different plumages, a few of which you can see on this image, the yellow, green, and blue plumage, but they all have the same hair. This doesn't seem like the most interesting Pokemon, so I guess they didn't want to put too much energy into it. Unlike Tadpole here, who's got plenty of energy, being the Eletadpole Pokemon, and you might notice looks a little bit like Bellibolt. That is because this is the pre-evolution, and it is freaking tiny. Like you can see next to the HP bar, this thing is barely as big as the B in its name. And I gotta say, it reminds me a little bit of this Fakemon I came up with on my stream. Of course, Tadpole will evolve into Bellibolt, who's just a pure electric type we've seen in Iono streams, so we're gonna move along to another electric type. The regional bird of Paldea is gonna be known as Watrel, the Storm Petrel Pokemon. Dude looks like he's seen some shit. I actually really like it though. Electric and flying is an awesome typing, and unlike most other early bird Pokemon, this dude only has one evolution, which is going to be Kilowatrel. Not my favorite name, but the Pokemon itself looks super fierce. I can see now why that was the description of it, according to leakers. But next is maybe my favorite Pokemon line in this region so far, Knackley the Rock Salt Pokemon, who's going to be a pure rock type, more commonly known as the Mario Mushroom. And all the rumors talked about how apparently its evolution reminds them of Minecraft, so I can't wait to see Knacklestack, the Minecraft Pokemon. Okay, it's not actually known as that, but you can see the very blocky blocks that it's got. With the final evolution, Garganacl, taking this even further, looking like a whole jungle temple on its head, or I don't even know if that's a head or what is going on, but it definitely reminds me of Barbaracle, which is funny because its name sounds like Barbaracle, and its name might seem a little weird at first, but NaCl is actually the chemical formula for sodium chloride, aka salt, dude. A little less salty is our next Pokemon, Cloth, who's not your usual crab, this one living on the land and being a pure rock type, one of the Titan Pokemon. But we're going right back to the ocean with Wiglet, our first convergent species slash regional fake, and that means its evolution is of course just like Dugtrio. We've got Wugtrio, which I was really hoping would not be its actual name, but here it is. Now this is a Pokemon I can get behind. Bramblin, the Tumbleweed, is going to be a grass and ghost type and actually has an evolution as well, whose name we don't quite know yet, but it definitely looks more sinister, which is the complete opposite vibe of our next Pokemon, Orthworm, who just looks so happy to be alive. He is literally beaming, perhaps because it's a steel type. That kind of reminds me of those worms from Super Mario. What's up with the Mario references in this game? Now here's where things get real interesting, because we're going to start getting into the new evolutions we've got in Gen 9, starting with Annihilate, a brand new fighting and ghost type evolution of Primeape, who looks like he definitely did not get enough sleep last night. This might be one of my favorite designs, how it's got one shackle broken and the other one just completely gone. And I'm really curious about its Pokedex entry, like why is it a ghost type now? Of course, we've got the new evolution for Girafarig, Farigiraf, who remains a normal and psychic type, but has the tail just completely consume its main body. And the most anticipated evolution of all time! We finally have an evolution for Dunsparce, who's gonna be... Wait, isn't that just... I know it says Dunsparce, but like, what? As you can see underneath the typing, this is apparently known as the 2-segment form of Dunsparce, so I'm wondering if there's gonna be a 3-segment or maybe even 100-segment Dunsparce that's just a super long snake, because this is definitely underwhelming for an evolution that we've been waiting for so long to see. But our final new evolution is maybe the most unexpected of them all, King Gambit, the final form of the B-Sharp line, who's gonna remain a dark and steel type with a samurai theme, I think? Kind of weird that they waited until the Spanish-based region to make such a Japanese-inspired Pokemon, but you know, it looks pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. Now there's only going to be 2 regional variants in Paldea, one of which was Wooper we already saw, and the other one is a bit special because Tauros here is going to be a fighting wild bull Pokemon in its Paldean form. It's basically just a black recolor of Tauros, which might seem a little weird until you realize that there's actually 2 more forms of Tauros, this being the fighting and fire version. And finally, there's a fighting and water version of this wild bull as well, even though they all look very similar to each other. Kind of feeling like, did they really have to do 3 different forms? But another surprise evolution, or rather pre-evolution, is going to be Shroodle, who you might notice being poison and normal type, is actually the pre-evolution of Grafaiai, known as the Toxic Mouse Pokemon. I'm pretty sure that's its little tongue sticking out that I guess it uses to draw on the trees like its evolution does. And just in case you hadn't seen it, this is Grafaiai, the first ever poison and normal type. Things are going to get a little weird from here on out because next up is Glimmet, the poison and rock type. I have no idea what this Pokemon is, but it evolves into the poison flower that we saw leaked a very long time ago using the poison terastallizing. Now we have a slightly better look at it on the left there, but it's still kind of a mystery what the heck this flower actually is. So we're gonna move on to something a little more cool. To be honest, this might be as cool as it gets. Like, come on, we got a little walking Tentacool who's gonna be a grass and ground type, and actually known as Toadschool because it's kind of like Wiglet, another convergent species, so the name is slightly different. And that of course applies to its evolution as well, Toadscruel, who gather in groups deep within the forest and absolutely hate when strangers approach. I mean, I wouldn't really want to approach that thing anyway. Next up might just be my favorite new Pokemon from this generation, Capsakid, the grass-type spicy pepper Pokemon. Oh my god, it is just so freaking cute, even though the ones underneath down there do look a little bit naughty. The reason why I love this Pokemon so much is because its evolution is going to be the first ever grass and fire type known as Scovillain. And that has just got to be one of the best Pokemon names ever, of course coming from Scoville, which is like the units they use to measure how spicy something is, and it's a pepper Pokemon, so it makes perfect sense to be the first ever grass and fire type. Although its design, Earlier I said there were still some bug types left, and here comes one rolling in right now. It's R'hllor, the rolling Pokemon, who rolls up sand and mud, I guess, to make little piles of... It's based on a dung beetle, so I think you can assume what it's actually rolling. Psychic Energy, duh! Its evolution we don't know the name of yet, but it is apparently going to be a bug and psychic type, and you can definitely see that from the big ball of dung that it rolled up now being purple for some reason. In the running for cutest Pokemon of Paldea, we've got Little the Frill Pokemon, who's going to be a pure psychic type and actually evolves into the long-rumored Ostrich Cleopatra, whose name we now know is S-Patra, because, you know, ESP and Cleopatra combined. I wonder if they asked Nicki Minaj if it was okay to use her likeness when designing this Pokemon. Oh my god, I did not just need to throw that shade out of nowhere. Definitely doesn't look like this would evolve from the Little Flittle we saw before, but on their own I do like the designs. As opposed to Tinkatink, who I honestly just feel bad for. This is the long-rumored Hammer Fairy Pokemon, and is going to be a Fairy and Steel type that swings its hammer around to protect itself, but the hammer is often stolen by Pokemon that eat metal. Oh, poor little Tinkatink. It's okay though, because it toughed it out and now it's become Tinka-Tough, the hammer Pokemon, who still remains a Fairy and Steel type, but evolves yet again into Tinkaton. And this design I actually really like. It looks like an absolute badass, and that hammer is insane. Like, I can see why they mention it's intelligent in the Pokedex entry. How the heck did a Pokemon build that? Bombardier is going to be our next flying type, and I gotta say I love the name and also the design of it being based off of those like cranes that deliver babies, except this guy delivers bombs from the sky. Like, that is terrifying. I can definitely see why it's a half dark type. But on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, we've got the most gentle looking Pokemon ever, Finizen, the first dolphin Pokemon. How many years have people been waiting for a dolphin Pokemon? And we finally get it here, and it's literally just a dolphin with a little bit of body paint on it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit disappointed with this one, because I feel like a dolphin Pokemon, again, one of the most like requested Pokemon ever, and we end up getting just literally a blue dolphin. Like, they could have definitely done more, though I suppose its evolution is a little bit more interesting. I'm not really sure that I like it, but it's definitely better than just being a dolphin. Now we finally get to see what the engine Pokemon actually looks like in its pre-evolution here. We've got Varoom, the single sill Pokemon, who's going to be a steel and poison type, and it's literally what we saw in the trailer that I expected was the pre-evolution, but the rock wheel is actually part of the Pokemon as well, which, looking back at it now, should have been so obvious, but you know, that's hindsight. It is going to be evolving into Revavroom, who is of course the Starmobile that Team Star uses throughout all of their bases. But the Pokemon itself, you can see in the bottom right corner there, also has a sort of rocky car underneath. So even when it's not attached to the Starmobile, it's still a car all on its own, which is not what I was expecting, but I like it. Sticking with the motor vehicle theme, we've got Cyclizar, the mount Pokemon, who you can pause if you want to read the full Pokedex entry, but all I'm going to say is, you better be related to the legendaries. And another apparently standalone Pokemon is going to be Flamigo, the flying and fighting type Flamingo, another design that people have been asking for generations now. We finally got a Flamingo, and it literally just looks like a regular Flamingo. But at least with this one, I was not expecting it to be flying and fighting. I mean, honestly, I don't even think it looks like flying. Like, does it really fly with those tiny little wings? Another contender for cutest Pokemon of Paldea is definitely Citadel, the pre-evolution of Cetitan as the Terra Whale Pokemon. Just look at these little dudes, oh my god. Its evolution, definitely not as cute, but still kind of cool. No pun intended. But the cute Pokemon aren't done yet, because next is Tatsugiri, the Mimicry Pokemon. The long-rumored Sushi Dragon is finally here, and as you can see, it is actually a water and dragon type, but definitely not what I expected it to look like. It is so tiny and so cute. I can't imagine it's going to be a very powerful dragon, but it seems this little dragon might not need too much strength because it actually has its own personal bodyguard, Dondozo, the giant catfish, who's going to be a pure water type. And you can see Tatsugiri's ability below me says that when it enters battle, it actually goes inside the mouth of Dodonzo and issues its commands from there. That has got to be one of the coolest relationships we've seen between two different species of Pokemon. I'm gonna guess that they're gonna be a very, very good pair in double battles. Gimmighoul is up next, and if you want to know more about this coin-loving Pokemon, I did a whole separate video explaining his backstory, but for now he's gonna be a pure ghost type. However, it has now been confirmed that Gimmighoul will evolve into a ghost and steel type golden surfer? I don't really know what's going on with the design here. I mean, I don't dislike it because its body is literally made out of coins. You can see even its like hair or whatever that is are coins, and like its whole body's literally just coins stacked on top of each other. So definitely lives up to the whole idea that you have to collect 999 coins to evolve it. But the pseudo-legendary for this generation is going to be an ice and dragon type, and in its baby form is known as Frigibax. Kind of cute, but also kind of weird. I definitely like this second evolution more, known as Arctibax. That design is super cool. Honestly, I might like it more than the final form even. This actually is a really cool design. I don't know what the heck I was talking about. It's literally got a giant sword on its back, or I guess those are its wings, but its name being Baxcalibur definitely makes me think of the sword, obviously Excalibur. Overall, a really solid design that totally reminds me of Godzilla. So let me know how you think Arctibax will stack up against the other pseudo-legendary dragons, because we're going to be moving right along to the Paradox Pokemon, or the past and future forms, and I actually did a whole video breaking those down yesterday, so if you want to check that out in more detail, you can find it down in the description. We're going to speed run through them in this video, starting with the Great Tusk, the past form of Donphan, who's going to be a ground and fighting type. Of course, there's the future form known as Iron Treads, who's going to be ground and steel type. The Brute Bonnet is going to be Amoongus's ancient form, grass and dark type. And we actually get a better look at Sprigatito's final evolution from the back here too, who coincidentally happens to be a grass and dark type as well. Catch these iron hands, says Hariyama's future form here, who's going to be another electric and fighting type. We didn't get one until Gen 9, and now we have two of them. Though I gotta say, I definitely prefer this one to Palmy. Volcarona is actually going to have two new forms in these games, starting with the past form found in Pokemon Scarlet here, Slitherwings, who's going to be bug and fighting type, though I definitely don't see why it's that typing. Its future form in Pokemon Violet is going to be known as the Iron Moth and is a fire and poison type, so I think it's pretty clear which of these two siblings was the favorite child. Maybe the most surprising Paradox Pokemon is Magneton, known as Sandy Shocks, and this is a past form, I believe, in Pokemon Scarlet, who's going to be electric and ground type, so kind of like a pseudo-legendary version of Stunfisk. Delibird is getting a future form known as the Iron Bundle, with maybe the weirdest design of them all. Like, I'm still not really sure what's going on with that little ball, but I guess it makes it an ice and water type. And Jigglypuff's Vampire Fangs apparently make it a Psychic type. Probably the weirdest of the past and future forms to me. Like, I really don't get why it's this typing, but it's known as the Screamtail. Actually, I take it back. The weirdest might just be Iron Jugulis. Like, I don't even know what that name means, but I guess it makes Hydreigon into a dark and flying type that's just got LEDs. Miss Drevis is another weird one, getting a new form called Fluttermane in Pokemon Scarlet, so it's a past form here that's going to be Ghost and Fairy type. And the big bad Tyranitar is still stomping its way in the future, known as the Iron Thorns, Rock and Electric type. This has got to be one of my favorite future forms for sure, because it just looks like Mecha Godzilla and it's super badass. But my actual favorite Paradox Pokemon form, hands down, has to be the Roaring Moon, aka the past form of Salamence, who's gonna be a dark and dragon type. And just look at that design. Like, how could you not love a badass dragon like that? Last but not least is the Iron Valiant, which is going to be the future form of Gardevoir and Gallade, both of them, because the design at least looks like a fusion of them. You can see Gallade's legs, but also Gardevoir's kind of helmet, and it's going to be a fighting and fairy type. I was a little bit confused in the last video why it looks like both Gardevoir and Gallade, but someone in the comments cleared it up. It's obvious in the future there will be no gender. We're in the final stretch now, the legendary Pokemon, and there's going to be 7 of them in total in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, starting with the cover legendaries Koraidon and Miraidon, who are going to be dragon fighting and dragon and electric type respectively. I definitely expected that for Miraidon, the futuristic one, but Koraidon, I thought for sure it would be dragon and ground, considering it like has those dirt bike kind of tires. So we're gonna move on to the secret legendary Pokemon, and there's a new quartet, it seems, that all share the dark type, and they take inspiration from Chinese mythology, which is why their names might seem a little odd in comparison to other Pokemon. First up being this snail-looking creature, and I think those are actually its eyes right there tied into these vines. And the second one will be themed after a tiger or leopard, perhaps. It is a dark and ice type and has swords or fangs, I think. Dude looks kind of stretchy. Is that just me? Anyway, next we've got a dark and fire type fish of some kind. Its eyes are definitely the kind of feature that draws you in, looking like a yin-yang type of symbol. Finally, we've got the dark and ground type deer Pokemon. At least that's what it's being described as, but I don't really see a deer at all. In fact, I might even see more of like a turtle carrying a giant bowl on its head. But the final Pokemon in the Scarlet and Violet decks is the most mysterious of them all. This little crystal that's on all of the Terastal hats is rumored to be the antagonist of the games, kind of like Eternatus was in Sword and Shield, being responsible for all of the Dynamax energy. This Pokemon will be responsible for the Terastal energy found in Paldea, and we don't know if it's actually going to look like this little gem, or if that's just what it like manifests itself like in all of the Terastal hats. It's somehow keeping an eye on everything happening. That would be kind of creepy if it actually is omnipresent, like it can always watch. But like I said, we honestly don't know much about this Pokemon. We don't even know if it's actually going to be in the base game or if they're going to save it for DLC, because we've actually got one more surprise legendary, the ancient form of Suicune. And this is really, really crazy because if you notice, it actually looks like a fusion of all 3 legendary dogs or legendary beasts. Like you can see Entei's kind of mouth snout thing, but also Raikou's paws, and obviously Suicune's headpiece. But like, what does this mean? Were the 3 legendary beasts one same being in the past that then split into 3 eventually? We might not find out for a pretty long time because, like I mentioned, this Pokemon is apparently being saved for the first DLC of Scarlet and Violet, along with another legendary that we don't have any pictures yet, but it's rumored to be based on Virizion. So considering this ancient form looks like a fusion of all 3 legendary beasts, I wouldn't be surprised if the future form combines all 3 of the Swords of Justice, or I guess all 4 technically. We've also got Keldeo. But they are officially the last 2 Pokemon that we know of in the Scarlet and Violet Pokedex. So that's going to do it for this video. Let me know which one is your favorite, which Pokemon will you be adding onto your team, and hit that like button if you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for my playthrough of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet kicking off later today, and I cannot wait to see all of these new Pokemon in action.